Welcome to Lahana High School's Tigers Talking on the Prairie. This is just an experiment that my senior English class is doing. They're looking at their writing, they're talking about the process, and then sharing their written work. It's an effort to expand our audiences, to find a real-world audience. It's an opportunity for us to get out there on the internet and shape the world. So we hope you enjoy this Tigers Talking on the Prairie.
Hi, my name is Mariah Archuleta, and I attend Lahana High School, and I'm currently taking Miss Smith's Honors English 4 class.
Hi, my name is Christian Finley. I'm a senior also enrolled in Miss Smith's Honors English class. Today we're going to talk about the process we took to construct our narrative essays.
We will also read aloud our pieces of writing. So, Christian, my question to you is, how did you come about deciding what your topic would be?
Well, we first wanted to pick out what qualities go into narrative writing by annotating certain models. We then thought of 3 different topics that we would want to write about and chose the one that we could go in most depth with. I am now going to start off by reading my own personal narrative writing. As mentioned, I'm Christian Finley, Miss Kelly Jo Smith's Honors English Class 4. My title is noted A Matter of Seconds. According to a national statistic, hitting parked cars was the #1 cause of accidents within a mile of a driver's home. If only I knew then what I know now. I could have possibly avoided that very Christmas morning, when most people usually account of the day being full of cheer, gifts, and love. It still replays in my head the things I could have done differently, but knowingly this was out of my control. This is no tragedy of anything of that matter, but a personal experience in my life. Of course, I'm talking about my very first car accident and hopefully my last. Everyone remembers their first in lives. And with all the hard work in the young age I was at the time, I wanted nothing more than to have something of value that I can call my own. A personal thirst for independence. I set 2 goals of myself when I got hired at McDonald's. One was to obtain my learner's permit, and second was to purchase my very first vehicle at the age of 16. I made it a necessity to save up each and every check that I received. As a result, through months of saving and working hard all summer, I managed to save up over $1,000 in my bank account and passed my permit test with flying colors. Not only was I excited, I was also ready to rush my purchase. I began looking online and through local newspapers. I wasn't looking for anything very special, just something to get me to point A to point B. Eventually, I became interested in a 1994 Pontiac Sunbird that a friend of mine was selling. I instantly became intrigued with the uniqueness of the vehicle. It wasn't like most vehicles. It was a speedy old coupe that was surprisingly in good shape. It took a while for me to convince my parents, but eventually they gave in. I now had purchased my very own first car, a feeling that most teens my age will never forget. I loved the feeling of driving my vehicle and spoiling myself. I got my tags, my plates, insurance, and I was set for the road. I was constantly getting a car wash to ensure the slick design, the blue exterior. I would always have the sunroof open, and the newfound freedom I found would be able to be seen by the world. I wanted to take care of my car. I dedicated time by putting work into the engine. It could have not looked any better. But of course, every sweet has its sour. It was the morning of Christmas Day, and it had snowed bad the night before, but I had some errands to run. I started by cleaning off my car. By this point, I was still in admiration of the vehicle. Then I started heating it up, and it started with no problem. Who would have thought that my little Sunbird would be such a beast in extreme weather? I ran my errands around time with no problem, but at the back of my mind, I kept hearing my mother's little warning of "you never drove in snow." This is how a simple mistake can literally change in a matter of seconds. I decided that I would commute on a different route to get home. There was a sense of strangeness about this empty road. I knew something was wrong about that street I took. It was a hill that turned onto the street right down from my house. And up until that point, I had no issue with sliding. My car was 4-wheel drive, so I guess you can say I had no worries. You know that point that most people who experience car wrecks say that you go into shock? It's true. I applied my brakes at the stop sign and found myself sliding and trying to turn my steering wheel into the direction of the skid, but by then it was too late. My body jerked back and forth in motion, and all I could do was freeze. After gathering my thoughts, I attempted to reverse from the impact because of the fact that I was in the middle of the road. However, when I set my foot on the gas pedal, I then realized my front end was stuck under the pickup truck that I had hit, and noticed that the owners of the vehicle started shuffling out of their home. So I stepped out of my car and had trouble getting out because my door was jammed. That was when I saw my entire front end damaged. I couldn't even remember how it happened or how I could have prevented it. It was still cold by then, and due to the fact that I was a minor and this was my first accident, I ran home to get my mother, and the owners contacted the authorities. I was then faced with policemen questioning my every move to see if they could discover what had happened. I felt insulted. How could this be my fault? But of course they were just doing their job, and I appreciated that. All in all, I wonder what I did to deserve this type of karma. Was it my own selfishness to not appreciate what I had? I learned a lesson from it all, though, and for that, I'm thankful. Thank you.
As followed by Christian, I'm Mariah Archuleta will now read my story titled The Real World. I never thought the day would come where I would actually have to get a job and work. You just don't think about those things until at one point in your life you realize reality is coming straight for you. I hit that point when it was my sophomore summer. The first words from my parents' mouths were, "You need to get a job." At first I was slacking and wasn't looking at all. I didn't think it would really matter if I got a job or not. Actually, I thought it would take up all of my time. That's why I was so hesitant. My parents were constantly on my back asking if I applied anywhere or if I had even tried. Truth be told, I hadn't really tried at all. I couldn't get over the fact that I would have to be getting ready for a job and be there for more than 4 hours. But I had to. It was mid-July, a real humid day when I chose to go to McDonald's and get an application. I got one, filled it out, and gave it back, but didn't think anything of it. The next day, I saw a strange number calling my phone, and I answered. All I heard was, "You got the job." The first thought that ran through my head was that it couldn't be serious. I was hoping I wouldn't get the job. At that point, I had to suck it up and go in for orientation and see what all I had to do. After hearing everything that I would have to do and the responsibilities, it didn't sound as bad as I thought it would be. I would be working 5 days a week, 5 to 9. Not so bad, right? Wrong. A big change occurred for me taking on maturity. I could no longer lounge around all night and do whatever I wanted. I had to go to school all day and then head straight to work after school. Not as tolerant as it sounds, but I had to make it happen. The more into school I got, the more homework I started to have. Well, having to go to work right after school started to become a struggle because I wouldn't have time to do it. By the time I got out of work and got everything done at my house, I didn't even want to think about doing homework. Most of the time I just didn't do it, which made me start falling behind in school. It became a problem and I was becoming stressed out. This went on for a little while until I found a strategy that worked for me. Another problem was just the new environment I had to get used to. I wasn't used to being around different people, actually at a job and having to work with them. I had to start understanding the different type of people you come across in life. I had to get used to a lot of things that I wasn't familiar with before having my job. Overall, I'd have to say getting a job was one of the best decisions I could have made. I know McDonald's is just a high school fast food job, but it has taught me a lot. I didn't really think having this job would help me in any sort of way, but thinking about it now, I've come to the realization that I can go through problems differently now. By understanding how to work around and with the other people I've learned. It has taught me a lot of responsibility, that's for sure, and it's getting me ready to go on to better jobs. You get the vibe of what it's going to be like when you get older and have to do this every day. I now keep up with my schooling and homework and still surprisingly get free time in. At this point in my life, I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't get a job. I'm glad my parents pushed me and I'm glad I actually succeeded. I now pay my own bills, my car, my gas, and anything else unnecessary that I want. It feels good knowing you can handle your money and such, and just knowing you've grown from an experience.
This has been Tigers Talking on the Prairie, a senior English project at La Juntas Junior Senior High School located in La Junta, Colorado.